Hi, everybody. Wanting to give you a video here about this new assignment that I'm giving you for this week, and it was the Polka Dot project. I just want to say that in thinking about how to get you all started on your own quest, on your own color quest, in this kind of a class where, it's not, really representational, or where we're doing drawings in preparation for paintings. We're really working pretty abstractly, which allows everybody of any skill level to learn about color mixing and everything we've been studying. I am organizing this particular lesson around something, related to patterning. I mean, it's a very approachable, very accessible way to begin working on compositions. And I'm hoping that, that through this, you will be able to experiment and discover on your own some more about a personal approach to color. So we can talk more about that in class. And I want to say too that if any of you are currently working on paintings or prints or other things that are outside of what we do in class, and you would like feedback in terms of your color, I would love to have you put them in the Padlet, and we can chat about that in class as well. So I hope everybody understands I'm trying to reach the broadest people, the broadest sort of skill set in our class, and avoiding anything that requires a lot of drawing practice. Okay, so that said, let's get on to this exercise. So first of all, let me introduce you, if you don't already know, Yayoi Kusama, who is this, woman artist, Japanese woman artist, who has been working for quite a while. She's now well into her 80s. She's getting a lot of attention right now, even though she's been around for many, many years working, and her main theme is polka dots. This is her, this forms her art, and it's just a really interesting thing to check out. And of course, I think of her as somebody who just loves, high intensity color. And, she has really, kind of even makes fashion statements using polka dots. And as this says here, how Yayoi Kusama built a massive market for her work. So, lots of people are very interested. And so her work is really playing with color mixing, color juxtapositions, and she loves this patterning. If you read or hear her talk about her work, this polka dot really comes from a way that, apparently she had an experience of seeing the world, sort of covered in dots. And I don't know a lot about that. But she, really has taken such a simple motif, the polka dot, and, created these environments for people to just immerse themselves in. And as you see, this starts to look like an infinity, no floor, no ceiling, no walls. When you're in here, some of these installations, and by the way, there's one opening again at the ICA Boston, should you be interested in checking that out, where you really feel, this immersive space. So anyway, this is Yayoi. And so I thought it would be interesting to take Yayoi as an inspiration and say that, polka dots are absolutely, you might say at first, oh, that's silly. But, when you're the commitment to this theme that she's had over her whole entire life is extraordinary, you know, and it really does make you wonder, well, it makes you think twice about, you know, what this is for her and how she's really transformed this idea into way more than you might think. Okay, so gosh, I can't stop looking at all this stuff. You know, she's been doing these in paintings at the beginning of her career, but now, you know, she's off to working in installation and these infinity rooms, as she calls them. So let's go back to our video here. So what I did to start with is, as I had mentioned to you guys, make 3 pieces of paper. These are about, I don't know, 9 by 12, 8 by 10, something like that, where you are creating, and I'm just going to move my camera down here so you can see, you're creating nice flat surfaces of paint. But the word flat, you know, I don't mean necessarily matte. I meant, you know, I mean opaque. Because as you can see, there is still a little bit of shine. As I mentioned yesterday, that's because the pigments that are in these paints are synthetic, and they do tend to naturally have a sheen. If I wanted that to go away, I would just mix a little bit of matte medium in that, you know, that's fine. And then you get something that appears to be like gouache, Gouache, which is basically watercolor that's mixed with white. And a lot of people love that because it really does produce a very flat surface because of the white mixed into it. But those paints are not permanent. They are, I mean, rather, they are water soluble. So if you do spill water on them, they'll start to puddle. They'll be reconstituted. But you know, with acrylics, that will not happen. So there's some advantage to learning how to use acrylics like gouache if you like that surface. So anyway, here are my 3 colors, and I thought I would just take you through how I might determine the complement, because you know, on each one of these, the dots will be the complement of the color that I chose. And so I was kind of random at the way I mixed these colors. I just really kind of picked up colors that I had out. I tend to choose, when I'm choosing colors, I seem to always kind of balance cool colors with a warm color. You know, that's, I find that, you know, I won't choose like blue, green, and purple necessarily. I might choose, you know, blue, green, and red, or blue, green, and I wouldn't even choose yellow because it's too close to this. So the word analogous means colors on the color wheel that are close to each other. So analogous colors, you know, are often the ones we think of as, you know, sort of, which you might decorate your kitchen with, or, you know, you pick colors that are, you know, naturally harmonious because they are next to each other in the color wheel, analogous colors. So, you know, these would be more analogous. This would not be an analogous color because it's on the other side of the color wheel. But I like that because I always feel like it creates some, a little bit of interest, a little bit of excitement. I'm always going for that in my work. So I just kind of naturally gravitate to something on the other side of the color wheel. So yeah, but each one of these presents, you know, a different question as to, you know, how and where to find that complement, the opposite on the color wheel, right? So that's where these things that we did, you know, in the first class can really come in handy. So we can even find these colors, you know, and I'll tell you, this one here was a mixture of diarylide yellow and black. So, you know, we've discovered that those 2 colors, whether it's diarylide or whether it's benzimidazolone or Hansa yellow, all of the yellows, when you mix a little bit of black in them, make a kind of green, which is just fascinating. And you know, one wonders how that happened, because it isn't something that seems intuitive, does it? Okay, so anyway, you know, here we have a color that's very similar. Here's my yellow. It wasn't the diarylide yellow, but it was a yellow. I think this was the benzimidazolone. But at any rate, you know, you can use that as a way to go across the aisle here and see, which color would be the likely complement. So of course we're into the violets, right? So opposite on the color wheel of yellow is violet, purple, whatever you want to call it. And so we would know that, we would mix, actually, this color here, this one that's a little bit lighter, seems to be about the same value. Doesn't matter though. I mean, I could take, for your purposes, you could take any one of these complements, or mixed as much with white as you want to. This is the openness of this exercise I'm giving you, that you can choose that, but the idea is just to get kind of used to thinking about complements and how they work together. So, and what about this one here? So, again, what's the opposite of blue? This is not the exact blue. This is an ultramarine blue. This is more the phthalo blue here. Yeah, because phthalo blue, as you can see, but you look across the aisle here and you see, kind of an orange, orange red or orange. That would be the complement. So again, you can add white to it, you could add black to it if you want to, but you would be, basing that in the complement that you'll be mixing up for this one. And then the magenta one, this was just straight on quinacridone magenta, which we actually had on this one here. Although I don't have it filled in, the opposite on the color wheel here is green. So we're looking for a green that I could mix. That's interesting because the magenta really, kind of reads more as a red violet, I would say. So, our opposite on the color wheel will probably be like yellow green, but somewhere in this neighborhood. So I'm going to stop the recording right now, and I'm going to go mix up those colors as I had mentioned to you, and I'll be back to continue this exercise. Okay, here we are back again to then show you the next part of this exercise, which I had mentioned was taking some other kind of way to make dots other than your brush, and those of you who have worked with me before know that I'm, a really big fan of printmaking techniques mixed into painting, because they do give you a little bit of a unique surface. They do give you a little change from a brush mark or a drop that you can make with a brush that's sort of it's fine, but there's so many more ways to make a really dynamic surface. So in this case, we have bubble wrap. It's rated by Studio to find some different shapes here. I've got these gigantic polka dot stencils. So these stencils, this is a commercial stencil that I bought, and it's made of some sort of plastic. And of course, you know, if those taken printmaking with me before, you know that we've made stencils out of some kind of lightweight acetate, Duralar, Mylar, or even just freezer wrap paper that's got a little bit of plastic surface on it. Even regular paper, cut a shape, cut circles out of a piece of paper, and use this as a stencil. And then finally, I found a bottle cap. And so I'm going to say that you could also use just the outline of a dot. That's this I'm going to dip into paint and print as if it were like a printmaking technique, and let the outside edges of the circle be that dot. So I get, you can see here that I'm inviting you to take some risks and try, things that might be a little bit unexpected for you. So I'm going to actually take my magenta piece here and show you what I'm talking about. And because I've already mixed this color up, these colors are actually great complements. I mean, it's just kind of funny because, so these are actually complements, really pretty darn good complements. What I'm going to do for this one, though, is I'm going to add a little bit of white to it because I feel like it's I don't know, it's dark and it's too much like this other one that I've already met, had the background. So if I'm going to plan to make these part of, a larger composition, I want a little bit more variety. So I'm going to add a little bit of white to this. By the way, I'm using my open white. Again, this is going to extend the drying time. So, that's something you can also think about doing is when you have to lighten something, use the open version of a titanium white, and that will extend the drying time if you need to do that. So again, just taking a little bit of this on my palette knife. If I'm really trying to lighten the value, of course, I want way more white than I would just use to simply make the paint color opaque. And I know some of us are still struggling with that, but yeah, the more you practice at it, the better, the easier it will come for you to get that nice flat color. I realized yesterday that the magenta that I was using for my demo for you guys did not have enough white in it. It still was streaky and a little bit more glossy than I would like. And I really should have added a little bit more white to it. But that's just something that you can figure out. You just kind of get the hang of it, and you get a little bit more brave about adding. Again, because we're using this paint that has an extraordinary amount of pigment to it, it can hold that white without becoming lighter than you wish it would. It's just really able to hold up against the white without immediately turning into a tint. Okay, so I've got this color that I've added more white to, so it's a little bit of a lighter value. And so what I'm going to do is just paint it on my bubble wrap, or you can, put this out onto a flatter surface and just, take your bubble wrap and flatten it into the paint if you want to. But, this is what I'm going to do now. And I'm going to probably have to do this a number of times where I just take my bubble wrap and I press it down, and I'm going to get polka dotted, paper using that color. So how fun is that? So that's, something that I would do is just to keep going. And, you might take advantage of the fact that the next pressing will be a little bit lighter. So, within the boundaries of, using these complements and, using the size of paper, there is some definitely latitude for some creative playing in the rules, So just going to finish up this one so you can see what I'm talking about here. And then you would, do the same kind of thing on this other one. And let's do another pressing of this. So yeah, I'm a big fan of integrating printmaking techniques into the painting process. Like I say, what happens is that gives you more vocabulary to play with, makes it more interesting. And for the viewer, I think can be, depending on what you're trying to do, especially in these kinds of experimental or sort of non-representational modes. Okay, so that's one polka dot piece. The other one, let's do this. Let me use these ones here and come back to get my magenta that I had mixed up, because again, remember I said that these are really almost perfect complements. They actually really work. So now with stencil, so I just want to say that sometimes your first stencil, people get frustrated because it's easy for the paint to slip underneath the stencil edge. So what I would say is don't worry too much about it. Let that be kind of the natural sort of organic look of it. You're not a machine. You're not trying to make these perfect. There's no, who cares if they're perfect? We're really just looking for fodder to make our paintings. So my suggestion is to use paint that is not too watery. That's why you don't want to add more water to your paint. And this paint, as I mix it up, it's pretty good. I mean, it doesn't drip. You know, you don't want drippy paint if you're going to try to do stencil. No, no, no. And these edges, yeah, so you just hold it down. And what I would say is paint inwards. So go from the outside edge inward, and that way you won't, you know, run the risk of having it seep under the edges as much, you know, so like that. Same thing with this one, you know, paint from the edge inside rather than trying to go this way, because if you go this way, oops, sorry, you can't see that. If you go this way, you know, paint outside, it's easy for the paint to slide underneath there. So, but you know, it may slide anyway. And as I said, don't fret about that. Just pick it up as carefully as you can and, you know, move on to the next. So there you go for the big polka dots, right? The really big polka dots. And then the last one that I just want to show you. So should you decide to do one like I'm doing, where you're using the outside edge of your little cap. I mean, I could do a print on this side, but my cap has sort of raised letters on it, and I'm not sure that that's going to work. So what I'm going to do is, I mean, this is a decision, you know, you can make. I mean, it's sort of like happy accident or using what you have, you know, any of those things. And I'm not going to go for the compliment right now, because I'm just going to, I just want to show you what you can do. So I'm going to dip the edge of my object in the paint, right? And then place it down like this. So it's, you know, in this case, it's, you know, not using the right color. I mean, I would probably go for something much brighter. This compliment here was orange, as you know. So, you know, mix up a nice palette of orange paint. And, you know, any kind of a top like this could work. Or, you know, you could figure out another, you know, circular mark maker. You know, anything from cutting a sponge in a circle, right? To using, like I think I mentioned, the eraser on the end of a pencil. So let me show you what that's like. Okay, so here's the edge of the pencil. So these would be really small, really small. So just dip those in there and let's see what we got. We got lots of nice dots that way. So that's kind of fun. In my case, I've already got some small dots. So, you know, if you've already got the small dots here like this, you know, you may not want to use this because it's, you know, kind of comparable size. But, you know, if you don't have bubble wrap and you happen to have an eraser around, you could do that. So I'm asking you to be inventive and to be kind of playful with this exercise. And, you know, just use this design element of the dot to give us the beginnings of a series of paintings that we're going to be in collages, you know, so that the next step would be then, of course, to use these elements in making some collages. So, and as I said, so the next step, and we're going to pretend all this is dry and ready to go. And we're going to pretend that I'm making a 6-inch square, 6 by 6-ish. It's probably something like that. All right, so what will we do here? We could have fun cutting shapes. We could leave the white as the background. We could even, you know, play with the different colors in the background. I didn't say that you couldn't do that. So let me just see what would happen. I mean, what would happen if and this is where that curiosity comes, you know, this kind of playful curiosity. I wonder what would happen if, you know, and that's where the art part springs from you. And it's a really great place to work from, because it's not about, oh gosh, I don't know if somebody would like this. I don't know if this is any good, but it's like, oh, what am I curious about? You know, how would this look if I put it over here? You know, and then what if I used one of these really big, you know, a part of one of these really big ones? I wonder what that would be like. So I wonder, and of course, this is happily, you know, we're kind of the reverse of, you know, two colors that just happened, that I mixed up, that happen to be complements. very arbitrarily. I did not plan that. So that's something that, could work for you, or maybe you don't want that. Maybe you want 3 totally different colors, and you have a lot more possibilities that way. So, I'm just playing here to see what would happen. But, do I like this? Does this need to overlap? What if I left that white? What if I left, and then I added a little bit of this blue area here? What would that be like? So this is all about what would it be like, and you have a good number to do. And again, that is so that you can try out different possibilities. It's like always going back to the curiosity factor. What would it be like if? Would it be interesting to do that? So anyway, that's the assignment. So you're going to make a lot of these little guys. I think it was 10. And then, at the end of it, you're going to have these 10 nice little squares. And remember how we enjoyed looking at yesterday at the lineup of all of the homework assignments where, you had to use the same design over and over again, but they were just different configurations, how those really looked so interesting. I'm thinking of Mary's one where it was, that little sort of moon shape, but almost looked like a quilt, and so that's what we're going to get from doing these. By using the same elements and using them in different proportions in different ways, you're going to get some really interesting squared compositions with super playing with color that way. And what I'm hoping that will happen is that this project that we're doing now will extend for a couple of weeks, so that we get a chance to really explore more about color and more about what you can do with the different configurations. So I hope this explains things pretty well. And if it doesn't, just let me know. Happy to chat with you. And I look forward to seeing what you make.